behind him.
You were made as well as we could make you.
But not to last.
A light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you have burned so very, very brightly, Roy.
Why, hello there, my friends. Today's date is June the 28th, Sunday, 2020. This is going to be a recording for our video cast. And we're going to do something a little bit differently this time. Some of you guys may have heard that I was assaulted last Sunday as I was going to lunch in the Skid Row area. A person walked up to me and just punched me in the nose for absolutely no reason. And there were a lot of people outside. It was a Labor Day weekend, if I recall correctly, and there were a lot of churches outside who were serving food, and there was a lot of news cameras around as well. I had heard rumors that the person was paid $20 to punch me on camera, and when he did so, he broke my nose, and it also tore the cartilage underneath my top lip. So for this weekend, we will not be doing a video cast, or at least I won't be on camera. That's what I'm going to experiment with this time around. So that's the explanation for this week's video cast, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Okay, you guys, just a quick reminder that hate crimes in the United States of America carry the death penalty. I want to remind everyone that I am not an actor. I am literally in a hostage situation because of a government project with the police and with Hollywood, and that there are insinuations that both of my parents have been murdered, and as far as myself, I have been trapped now for 16 years and 6 months in homelessness. And all sexual harassment, all theft from my person, all stalking, taunting, provocations, assaults, and things like that are part of a larger picture to keep me trapped and to steal from me. So do be careful with what you are participating in. Okay. So for this week, we are going to talk about monopolies. And I came across this subject as I was surfing the internet one day, and I saw a YouTube video by Peter Thiel. And the title of his talk was "Competition is for Losers." And I thought that was a funny counterpoint to what is traditionally taught, and decided to take a look at it. As you guys know, I spend a lot of time looking at people who cheat, and for cheaters, as well as the psychology behind them. Alright, so to begin with, let's take a look at what some of the benefits are of monopolies. I'm going to cover these quickly with you, and they are on this week's blog as well. Number one, if you share the same opinions or agendas with the person who is in power, then your agendas will be fulfilled by the monopoly. Number two, if the industry or country has been unstable lately, or going through a period of warfare, feuding, or instability due to some other reason, then having an authoritarian force move in and seize control of the situation could be a welcome relief. Number three, some people don't want to vote, and some people don't want to participate in a free marketplace. They don't want to compete, and they just want somebody else to tell them what to do, or they like the safety and security of just having this huge monolith, this huge structure that supports them. Number four, there is no fear of competition upsetting your preferences. No upstarts, no revolutions, no competing clans or factions, no political upheavals. None of those things will ever happen to you if you have a totalitarian state or a monopoly in place. Okay, so what are some of the consequences to having a monopoly in place? Number one, there is an incentive to be inefficient as well as to be careless with your customers and to take them for granted. Number two, there is the ability to pay suppliers low prices or an unfair price. That's called a monopsony. The third disadvantage is the ability to pay employees low wages. These employees are people who have no alternatives for work. The fourth consequence or possible consequence is the ability to charge high prices to the marketplace. And number five is political power. That means that the monopoly has the ability to buy politicians, buy police officers, and things like that. That's something that shouldn't be possible, but instead, here in America, it's actually a built-in flaw into our system. Okay, so that's what we have on the surface of it. We have the pros and the cons, and that is what is traditionally taught in our university textbooks. But there is something else going on here, and it's not taught in any university textbooks. You kind of have to read in between the lines to see it. And what it is a carryover from the previous epoch. There's a reason that things like scientific racism, churches, totalitarian states, 18th century paraphernalia and heuristics, plantations, kings, lords, slaves, and things like that are persistent. It's because they preserve a structure for people who benefit from them. And you probably know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about English people and other people, at least in the context of the United States, who want these things, these structures in place because they expect to be the beneficiaries of these structures. They're not expecting to be disadvantaged by them. They're expecting them to do what they would do, say what they would say, rule as they would rule, as if they themselves were sitting in the driver's seat. And so they welcome this totalitarian state. This, for the Gaussian competitor, the man of talent who finds himself smack in the middle of the Gaussian bell curve, for this man, it is a dream come true. So, off the record, what are some of the benefits to the Gaussian competitor that you won't find taught in any university textbooks? Number one, he'll never go to jail. He'll never be prosecuted for the crimes that he commits against the next door neighbors, against the United States, against various laws and statutes, whether they be international, federal, or state, or just common sense. He can act like a spoiled child and do whatever he wants to. Number two, he'll never go out of business. He will always be a successful entrepreneur. Number three, they control the industry. Who's allowed to play here? Who's allowed to sell here? Number four, that controls the people and it controls the populace and keeps them dependent on you. Number five, that gives you status and it gives you hierarchy among the people around you. Number six, that feeds your self-image. That makes you the boss. That means that you're a somebody, might makes right, and so on. Number 6, you'll always be needed and popular if we preserve these structures. Number 7, you can always be a jerk and you can always piss on the people around you. So where's this going? Well, if you extrapolate on it and stretch out the timeline far enough ahead of you, then what you will see is that a totalitarian state and a monopoly, if allowed to exist long enough, will create a dystopian future. That is because the divisions of rich and poor continue to get wider and more exaggerated. In fact, in our popular culture, there are movies that illustrate this. Movies like Elysium, movies like Mad Max, Alita, and others describe a dystopian future. Elitism will lead to discrimination. There will be an asymmetry of wealth and of power. One of the things that I've taught you before is that when competing with others, whether it's a game or in warfare, is to look for asymmetries, advantages or surpluses that you have that give you an asymmetry over your competition, and look for ways to make them deplete theirs. And wealth is one of those ways that you can do that. In 1919, in the United States economy, there was $687 billion in our economic system. Just 100 years later, there's $75.87 trillion in the United States economic system. But 2% of the United States population owns or controls something like 2/3 of that wealth. So although they've flooded the market with money, it's going to a small minority of people. That minority of people will have a huge asymmetry on the populace around them and be able to outlast them by very large margins in the marketplace if things should become scarce, like food, water, and so on. There is more money in peace than there is in warfare, but we have more warfare today than we did 100 years ago, and we've got more weapons in circulation today than we did 100 years ago. I will tell you that, in my own opinion, I don't think that we have a population problem. I think we have stupidity problems. And I think that if the harbingers of the New World Order flesh themselves out about a dystopian nightmare where the wealthiest 2% live in a faraway land called Mercedes, and the other 95% of the world lives in poverty or something like that, that is the worst possible scenario and unnatural scenario for humankind to suffer through. Displacement is not the problem. Displacement is the answer. And if you take away one idea from this week's video cast, that would be it. I never know what ideas are going to stick with people. Sometimes I put a tweet out there and I think that's the best one this week or the funniest one this week. But it's actually something else unexpectedly that has far bigger numbers. But the most important point that I can give you for this week's video cast is to remember this. Displacement is not a problem. Displacement is the answer. That is the natural order of things. That is how things are supposed to go here in the United States of America. It's supposed to be a competitive environment. Okay, you guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for putting up with this week's video cast and the way I'm doing it. I am recovering from the assault charge, and my nose is healing. It looks like it's going to be somewhat normal as it heals, and it's still a little swollen, and my nose is still stuffy, um, from the fluids and so forth that drain down, but it's still healing, and hopefully we'll be back in tip-top shape. One last quick reminder for you is that sofrumano.com, the company, is the exclusive property of myself, Titus Nishi Anderson. I do not work for Hollywood. I do not work for the United States Army, and I have no partners, and I have no co-authors. Anybody purporting to be an affiliate or a representative or an agent or an authorized representative or reseller is lying to you and is fraudulent. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I wanted to share with you one of my favorite videos. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. This is an eagle who sneaks up on a goat and takes him down so that he can have something to eat. And if you've never seen an eagle take down a goat for something to eat, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So I hope you enjoy it. Have a great week. Bye-bye.